followed the sex industry for 12 years, met many interesting creatures during those 12 years, and I became the mainstream news media's go-to guy for commentary about what was going on in the sex industry. So I'd be interviewed on 60 Minutes or Entertainment Tonight. And until about 3 years ago, I used Grecian formula, so that's why there's no gray in the hair there. And that's Jamie Lynn, the Penthouse Pet of the Year 2006, trying to tempt me into sin, right above me. So I was living a life where I'd go to an Orthodox shul in the mornings, and I'd daven, I'd study a page of Talmud, and then I'd often go to a porn set and interview porn stars. And a lot of people thought that was kind of an incongruous life. And so a lot of people in the Jewish community said to me, well, do you think you might be a sex addict? Because they couldn't understand why anybody would want to write about such a industry. And other people said, do you think you might hate women? Because how else could someone immerse himself in the sex industry unless you really enjoyed the degradation of women? And I thought these comments were just, silly, and I just totally dismissed them. But I found it was hard to date nice Jewish girls while you're writing on the sex industry. I remember this one woman said, I'd have to test you for every STD under the sun and wrap you in plastic and deep freeze you for a year, before I could date you. So in 2007, I quit writing on the sex industry and thought, I'll just go back to writing on Orthodox Judaism. Because they're similar, like they're these distinct subcultures, like highly suspicious of outsiders, think the outside world is there to get them. And to me, it made perfect sense to write simultaneously about pornographers and Orthodox rabbis who are sexual predators. But so I was in therapy about 5 months ago, and I was talking to my therapist about what I want out of life. And my therapist said, that sounds like eroticized rage. And that's Hailey Rivers. I did date one porn star. That was after she left the industry. And I remember I was talking to a friend. I was kind of concerned about one of the scenes that she'd done. It upset me. And my friend said to me, well, at least you know she isn't racist. And it was about a couple of years ago. I was looking for a little solace one evening on the internet. And, I found one of her videos. That's a really sick feeling. Because she's a really sweet girl. And so I was in therapy a few months ago. And my therapist said, it sounds like you have eroticized rage. And I'd never heard of the term eroticized rage, but as soon as I heard it, I immediately knew it was true. So my therapist explained that eroticized rage is anger that's been sexualized. So perversion is the erotic form of hatred, a sexual behavior that breaks the rules, and social disapproval, judgment, and shame are key to arousal taking place. So I realized in a very short time that basically all my fantasies are just a form of anger. And that, I was motivated in this, vital, intimate arena by really dark stuff. So, someone who is motivated by eroticized rage, they have a rapist just under the surface, which was quite upsetting for someone who was trying to be a mensch and practicing Orthodox Judaism. This was not the way that I wanted to see myself. But as I read, the more I realized it was true. For instance, whenever I was having sex with a woman, I would almost always have to close my eyes, and I'd go in my brain to some perverse fantasy about some other woman than who I was with. The intimacy of keeping my eyes open during the act was too much for me. And if I actually kept my eyes open the whole time, I was unable to do the deed. And so as I read about this, I thought, I might need to go to 12-step programs for sex addiction. This might be my problem. And so my therapist outlined, look at the pain in my eyes. See how empty I am. On the one hand, this is my 40th birthday, and Penthouse sent 6 pets over for my 40th birthday. And this is Crystal Klein, very erudite, reads a lot of books, doesn't mind getting naked, a wonderful woman. But as you look in my eyes, you can see like underneath all the fun and like, the sexual Disneyland, like you can see how empty I was feeling inside. Okay, so now this is Bina. I got to keep things on a really elevated level. So each of us has an arousal template. Like there are certain things that turn us on, and for giggles, you might want to like one time just like write them out because all of us have a certain roadmap, and this roadmap to love or to eros is going to profoundly affect your dating, romantic decisions, and many of your choices in life. So my therapist told me there are 4 12-step programs for sex addiction. Sexaholics Anonymous is pretty Christian-oriented. It's very strict, no extramarital sex, no masturbation. It's basically married guys who want to stay faithful to their spouses. Then the other 3 programs, they allow you to set your own bottom line behaviors that you do not want to participate in. So for some guys, that might be they don't want to look at porn in the workplace. Other guys, no more prostitutes, or a lap dance only once a week. For women, it's often, I want to stop sleeping with my husband's best friends. Or like I have one friend, the only sex that she finds erotic is perverse. So she will have a relationship with a good, loving man, but she'll get her erotic excitement from phone calls or text messages or emails with someone who's married, totally inappropriate for her, and she will probably never act on them, but that's where she gets the excitement. So sex and love addiction, the last one, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, that looks at behaviors most in the context of relationships. So this is an equal mixture of men and women who tend to show up to these meetings. The others are pretty much all guys, talking about exposing themselves in parks and chasing underage girls, and you know what guys are like. So these are some questions. Like I studied all these surveys about, am I or am I not a sex addict? And I found myself answering yes to a disturbing number of questions. And these are some of the characteristics of sex and love addiction. So basically, for men, it will tend to operate this way. We idealize our latest partner or the partner that we're pursuing. And then as soon as the novelty wears off, we toss her aside and look for someone else new. For women, it often plays out with, I want to get with a powerful guy. And the more powerful, the more erotic he is. And that's like another notch on my belt. And so I'm going to act and dress in a way that will allow me to secure the powerful guy. So I stepped into my first 12-step meeting about 5 months ago. And I'd always kind of had disdain for 12-step. I thought they were Christian. Like, I'm a convert to Judaism, so therefore I've got to be more Jewish, hence the beard. The beard also says, I don't write on the porn industry anymore. I have to really like try to prove that, I'm an Orthodox Jew. And so I finally, broke down, went to the meetings, and found a lot of commonality with what people were talking about. It's like this desire to escape from a humdrum life or from depression or sadness or loneliness. And it's like, just give me a little solace. Just, allow me to have a little bit of joy in my life. Just a few minutes of porn. They'll make me happy and I'll be able to go on with life. And I was coming out of a 12-step meeting with one guy who was a veteran of the meeting, and I was been talking about, the different ways I like women to dress up, and he'd kind of shared some of my fetishes, and he said to me, that this sex addiction, this is just a symptom of our problem. It's not really the problem itself. Like the problem is that we have a hole in our soul, and the way we act out is sex addiction. But if we don't act out, there's still that hole in our soul. So from a Jewish perspective, the addict is somebody who needs to be connected to God. So that's someone like me. If I'm not connected to God, I'm going to self-destruct and I'm going to hurt people around me. So if you're not like connected to the real thing, to some higher purpose in life, for the addict, they're going to choose and chase false gods, such as sex addiction, love addiction, gambling, credit card use. I find that most people ask the wrong questions about 12-step programs. Most people respond to me when I share this in like a private conversation. Well, do you think you're really a sex addict? Or do you really think there's such a thing as sex addiction? And I don't think that's the important question. I think the important question is, would stepping into a 12-step meeting and a 12-step program and working the 12 steps and making amends to people I've hurt, would that improve my life? Like, I have no concern about whether or not there really is sex addiction, but I found that working the program improved my life. And when I look at the lives of many of my friends, how, for instance, with my female friends, it tends to be romantic intrigue is something that, they've got to have to keep life exciting. So, they'll often have, two guys that they're kind of seeing at the same time, or they're setting up the next relationship while they're in their current relationship. So, or for other people, it's overeating. Like for me, when I'm sad or lonely, and I'm feeling empty inside, I just want to fill that emptiness. And so I may eat healthy food, but I way overeat because I just don't want to feel empty anymore. And so I'm going to act out in some way just to stop that pain, because I don't want to face my life. I want to distract myself from my life. An analogy I would give is that I am a convert to Orthodox Judaism, and yet I'm not terribly concerned with whether or not every claim that Orthodox Judaism makes for itself is true. For instance, I know many Orthodox Jews who would say that anyone is a heretic who does not believe that there was a historical Adam, historical Eve, historical Garden of Eden, historical flood that covered the entire world, and the like. Like, I don't have much concern about those questions. Like, I find it hard to believe the world is 6,000 years old. For me, the primary question is, does Orthodox Judaism enhance my life? And with 12-step programs, my primary question was, well, going to these meetings, working these steps, and starting to make amends, will that enhance my life? For me, the answer is yes, and I suspect that for some of you, the answer would be yes also. Thank you.